Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Electric Viking. Fantastic to see you, and I hope you've had an unreal, awesome, no, seriously, guys, I really hope, and girls, I hope you've had a fantastic day. Now, thank you for subscribing to the channel and for tuning in again to what I think today is going to be an interesting episode. I would like to talk about one of my favorite cars by Hyundai Ioniq 5. Now, I honestly, genuinely believe this is one of the coolest cars ever made. Stick with me because I'm right. You know why? Because it's just an opinion. But let's be honest, it looks damn cool. You know what's cool about it? Function over form, form over function. Well, it looks fantastic. Technically, it is the size of a mid-sized SUV, yet it hasn't been jacked up because most people don't actually need an SUV. However, they might need the internal space of an SUV. This is an extremely practical car. If you actually think about the shape, the design, the interior size, it's way bigger than it looks. Now, the pricing has been released for the Ioniq 5 in Australia, and I'm going to guess that we can therefore extrapolate the price for the United States based on the price here in Australia and in Europe. Now, the price in Norway for the Ioniq 5 is around about $59,000 US, but this is a difficult indicator for me to correctly correlate the price to the United States. I can do that more accurately for a price for the car in Australia. Now, the base model vehicle, which actually comes with a lot of different spec, but it is only rear-wheel drive, costs 71,900 Australian dollars. So we can extrapolate from that it will be probably just under or around about 50,000 US dollars when it goes on sale in the United States in either the third or fourth, probably the fourth quarter of this year. Now, the higher spec model, which is to me a no-brainer, I think you'd be crazy to buy the lower spec model. Now, I'll explain why. Well, the higher spec model is all-wheel drive and it has a lot more power, but it only costs an additional $4,000. So an additional 3,000 US dollars or 4,000 Australian dollars. But if you buy the high spec model, you're getting a few other features, including dual motor all-wheel drive powertrain with 225 kilowatt and 605 newton meters, and a 0 to 60 miles per hour or 0 to 100 kilometers an hour sprint time of 5.2 seconds. Now, let's make a fair comparison of this vehicle with another vehicle of the same size and speed and luxury and design panache. Well, there's nothing else in my view actually with the same design panache as this vehicle in the ICE vehicle arena, but we can try, right? But before I go there, a very similar car to this is the Tesla Model Y. Not the performance version, because the performance version is quite a lot faster than the Ioniq 5. And I mean, the difference is actually astronomical, so it's not a very fair comparison. But the model underneath that, of the Tesla Model Y, the long range, that's probably a good and fair comparison. And this makes this vehicle look very well priced. It's a little bit cheaper than the Tesla Model Y long range. So I think there's going to be a tough competition here. Well, there would be if Hyundai were actually making many of these cars. Now, unfortunately, in Australia, we're only going to get 4,000 of these. But let's get back to our ICE comparison for this vehicle. All right. So a very, very, very similar vehicle in terms of size of the vehicle. And in terms of performance is almost identical, is the Audi SQ5. Now, I would say the standard specification on the Hyundai is a little bit better. In fact, I think the interior is better, the design is better. But overall, let's be fair, they're actually very similar vehicles in terms of size and performance. So the Audi SQ5 does 0 to 60 miles an hour in 5.1 seconds, almost identical time. 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, 5.2 seconds. Now, the Audi SQ5 costs 107,000 Australian dollars. Of course, because it's above the luxury tax threshold here in Australia, you end up paying a lot more than that. You probably get one drive away for maybe about 116,000, 117,000. If you want to add any options to that while you're looking at more money. Now, if we compare these cars now, you'll see that the Ioniq 5 is actually a bargain at $75,000. It is $30,000 cheaper than the Audi SQ5, and it's electric, and I think it looks way cooler. So it's a hit in my opinion. Now, the price difference between these two vehicles, the SQ5 and the Ioniq 5, is a little bit less in the United States, I believe it will be, and a little bit less in Europe as well. But still, the Ioniq 5 is still cheaper significantly than the Audi SQ5, and there's other models as well. There's the similar vehicle that Mercedes make, and of course BMW have one as well. But in all cases, the Hyundai has similar performance figures for the same size of vehicle and is much more affordable. But it's also battery powered, and it has some big advantages over those cars, including its standard specifications. Now, like I said before, the Ioniq 5 will be available in a 160 kilowatt single motor rear-wheel drive and a 225 kilowatt dual motor all-wheel drive variant, both with the same level of specification and a 72.6 kilowatt hour lithium-ion battery. Now, one of the big advantages of the Ioniq 5 versus most electric cars on the market is that it has 400 volt and 800 volt charging capability, plus a vehicle to load V2L function that allows you to provide up to 3.6 kilowatt of power to charge devices like electric bikes, scooters, even other electric vehicles, and even your house. Now, the Ioniq 5 is left wanting for very, very little when it comes to standard equipment. Now, until other trim levels arrive, which may be cheaper, all Ioniq 5 models will come standard with 12-way power front seats with zero gravity mode, plus 2-way power rear seats. Now, all seats feature memory and are finished in sustainable eco-processed leather. Now, there's also a glass roof, heated and ventilated front seats, heated rear seats, a powered tailgate, and 20-inch alloy wheels. The cabin features a sliding universal island center console that can be slid fore and aft by up to 140 millimeters, plus slimmer front seats to maximize packaging efficiency. And as you guys know, guys and girls know, I've been hammering on about packaging efficiency of EVs, how you can get a much bigger cabin because of the fact that they're EVs and you don't have a big motor in the front, don't have a transmission tunnel. That's one of the great things about this EV. I'll get to that in a second. Now, the interior features seats, headliner, door trim, carpets, and armrests manufactured using recycled PET bottles, plant-based and natural wood yarns, biopaint with plant extracts, and biodegradable and recyclable paperette inserts. I can't see any of that when I look at the interior images, but Hyundai assures us that it's in there. So let's just pause back at pricing again. The two-wheel drive model, 71,900 Australian dollars, or around about 50,000 US dollars. The four-wheel drive model, or the all-wheel drive model, is 75,900 Australian dollars, or probably around about 52,000 US dollars, making it, like I said, a performance bargain. Now, if you want to call this a supersized hatch, well, it's a supersized hot hatch because it'll do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, 0 to 60 in 5.1. So it's very fast. Now, let's have a look at the efficiency and the range. The 2022 Ioniq 5 has an electric range of 451 kilometers on the stricter WLTP standard in rear-wheel drive guys, and 430 kilometers with all-wheel drive. Now, those ranges are real-world ranges. It's been tested. It can actually exceed those ranges in the real world. So you'll find that that's a realistic number. Now, it uses 17.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers in the rear-wheel drive variant and 19 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers in the all-wheel drive model. However, in tests in Europe, they found the efficiency to be quite a bit better than that and come down to around about 15 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Now, it has 400 volt and 800 volt charging capacity, which we talked about before, and it can be charged at up to 10.5 kilowatt with an AC power and up to 350 kilowatt with DC fast charging, which will allow you to charge it from 10 to 80% in only 17 minutes, which is pretty incredible. Now, here is where things get interesting, right? The dimensions. It measures in at 4.6 meters long, 1.6 meters tall, and 1.9 meters wide, excluding the mirrors, and has a 3-meter wheelbase. Now, according to Hyundai, it weighs between 1,910 kilos for the rear-wheel drive version and 2.1 tons or 2,100 kilos for the all-wheel drive version. Now, what about the warranty? Well, it comes with a 5-year unlimited kilometer warranty. and the Ioniq 5's battery is covered for 8 years of or 160,000 kilometers, whichever one comes first. Now, it comes with a huge range of standard specs. I'm just going to put those in the description below rather than read them all out to you. Otherwise, you'll just get bored. What I really want to talk about now is the fact that idiots have no idea what they're talking about because they're idiots. Now, people are criticizing this car, saying it's too expensive, which is just ludicrous. Like, look at the specs. Look at the size of it. They're saying, okay, I'm going to read to you what some of these Aussie gooses are saying. That's a lot of money for a Hyundai hatchback. I thought with extra competition, the price of these things was meant to get more even with ICE cars, not less. And then the next person says, and that's excluding on-road costs too. So closer to 80,000 Australian dollars. Price parity with ICE is a long way off, it seems. Or they would just increase prices on ICE to be the same as EVs. We're screwed either way. Now, both of those comments were two of the most popular comments on the most popular car website in Australia. And they had a lot of likes on them. This shows you how many idiots there are in this country, because these guys are regular motoring fans. So, neither of these people had any intention to actually check what this car measures up against. Now, we've already looked at what it measures up against. It measures up against premium SUVs because it's the same size as premium mid-size SUVs. In fact, it's got a bigger interior than the Audi SQ5, which we compared it to before. It's got a 540-litre boot, which is decent in the class, but its actual overall interior size is actually 15% bigger than the Audi Q5 or the Audi SQ5 as well. So it's actually bigger than most medium SUVs on the market. And it's faster than all of them except for the premium ones from Europe, which cost over $100,000. It is a performance bargain. Now, if you don't want a performance car and you don't care about performance, that's a different story. But this is a motoring website where all of these guys here, these guys and girls, actually, there's no girls here, sorry, they're all pretty much all guys, care about performance, blabber on about performance constantly. And this all-wheel drive model from Hyundai, the Ioniq 5, is actually a performance bargain. And let's be fair, it's a luxury car. So it is actually cheaper than its equivalent ICE comparison. So these guys here are 100% wrong. They just couldn't be bothered to actually look outside of their mental paradigm, which looks at everything through paradigm of EVs expensive, EVs bad. Because it seems as to me their brains aren't capable of doing so. Now, one of the more intelligent comments on the site, which didn't have as many likes, but it still had quite a few, came from Mike Costello, who is a car expert editor, and he said the Model 3 is finally getting some proper competition. Anjay has responded and said, I think this is more a Model Y competitor than Model 3. The proportions are more like an SUV than a hatchback. Now, obviously, most commenters on here didn't bother to read the specs. They didn't bother to read the size of the vehicle, the interior size, the boot size. They didn't look any of this up. Now, Horatio said, that's a lot better value than I was expecting for the top spec model. Personally, I thought the top spec model would come in at 90,000 Australian dollars or around about 68,000 US dollars. But it came in at only $75,000, which I believe is extremely good value based on everything that I've shared with you so far. Now, I did a 21 car EV comparison test a few months ago, and the Ioniq 5 out of those 21 cars came in at a very close second place, not too far behind the Tesla Model 3 long range, which was absolutely exceptional. But interestingly enough, second place, the Ioniq 5 was very close behind. It was only a couple of percent off first place. And then in third place was the Tesla Model 3 standard range, which was a fair way back from the Ioniq 5. So you can see this is an excellent car because I tested, in this test, I compared these 21 cars on 18 different metrics. 18 metrics, and I spent probably 50 hours comparing them all, looking at all the metrics, comparing the stats, looking in detail, trying to analyze them on what would be more important for customers. And the Ioniq 5 was actually a staggeringly good car. But this test had the Ioniq 5 at a higher price than what it is now going to be selling for in Australia. So it's even better than I originally thought. Now, in the test, the Ioniq 5 actually did 500 kilometers in distance. So it did 40 kilometers more than the WLTP range says it should be able to do. Now, other highlights were it came first in charging speed at 350 kilowatt hour. It was well ahead of second place, the Audi e-tron GT Quattro. It had one of the biggest boots with 540 litres, and it actually had the second biggest interior of all these cars, even bigger than the interior on the Skoda Enyaq. And here were some of my comments on this vehicle when I did the 21 car test. Great interior space. Style and packaging, first place out of 21 vehicles. Style, 10 out of 10. Bang for your bucks, third place. 800 volt architecture, best charging. So now for the bad news. Well, we're only going to get 400 of these cars in Australia over the next, 6 months. There may be more in future. I'm guessing there will be because it's going to be a huge hit. But I am very disappointed. We're only going to get 400. And the United States, while they've put off delivery of the vehicles of the Ioniq 5 in the United States because Hyundai's obviously prioritizing the European market for good reasons, I understand that, but still, they're not making enough of them. So their sales this year for the Ioniq 5 are actually very low. And the reason isn't demand. There's astronomical demand for this vehicle. There are 10,000 expressions of interest in Australia for this vehicle without knowing the price. Now they know the price. It's going to be even more than that. The reason for Hyundai not selling many of these cars is they simply aren't making them. Now, hopefully that changes very soon. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for watching the video. I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.